Cuba has a colorful and complicated political history. And it turns out its history with UFOs is equally rich. And now that smartphones have come to the island, videos of recent sightings are coming out, like this one. It's 2019 in Havana, Cuba. A local resident is going about his day when he suddenly sees something glowing in the cloudy sky and starts recording. An orange ball of light appears to hover in the gray sky. It has two dark protrusions, maybe wings or a saucer shape on either side, which disappear and reappear as the amorphous light spins counterclockwise. This video initially flew under the radar until a journalist shared it on the news in 2023, calling it the closest thing to a UFO he'd ever seen. But it's certainly not the first UFO over Cuba.
This video actually reminds me of another alleged incident that occurred in Cuba in March timeframe of 1967, where U.S. personnel were eavesdropping into some of the communications in Cuba when we overheard Cuban authorities scrambling two fighter jets to intercept an unknown object, a bogey. This metallic sphere was seen by some of these pilots, and when the pilots tried to interdict, there seemed to be some sort of electronic warfare capability, some sort of ability to damage, if you will, or hinder the avionics of the fighter aircraft.
The story goes that the flight leader was prepared to fire on the object when suddenly his plane disintegrated. But this is just one account.
I can tell you that even in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, there were incidents. There were these balls of light were reported by many of the guards. These reports have been in the U.S. government's hands. I've personally seen them. So there's a long history of Cuba dealing with luminous balls of light and potentially even UFOs.
At some point, this thing appears to have wings. Could it be some kind of high-tech military plane? Well, the Cuban Air Force used to be the most powerful in Latin America. But that changed when their ally, the Soviet Union, collapsed in 1991, leaving only a few obsolete fighter jets flying today. So our experts will need to consider some other explanations. In 2023, two migrants flew a hang glider from Cuba to Florida. Could this be another hang gliding refugee trying to escape communist Cuba?
Well, it has the wings, but if it was an aircraft with this shaped wing, it has to be moving at a fairly quick speed in order to stay airborne and have the lift it needs to stay airborne. It's not doing so. It's actually moving extremely slowly through the sky.
Could it then be something we know to hover, like a pyrotechnic drone? In 2024, Ukraine began employing so-called dragon drones to drop molten metal on invading Russians. Did Cuba's waning military toy with this tech back in 2019?
This arrangement is rotating around, and if it was fire, you would actually see that it looks more random than this. And besides, if it's a drone, you'd hear the sound of the motors. We don't hear that.
So it's floating fairly still without making a sound and producing a rotating light. We can only think of one thing that might check all those boxes.
If we pause it, like right here, you can see that this looks just like a child's delta wing kite. It even has the scalloped bottom edge, like you see on a typical kite.
And as for that rotating light?
What I think this is a kite that's been cleverly arrayed with LEDs. The LEDs aren't moving, but the light pattern is moving across a range of LEDs like spokes in a wheel. And so it goes from one spoke to the next all the way around the kite.
But hold on, that kite theory might not fly.
I don't think this is a kite because it is not seen to be reacting with the environment that it is in. In other words, it looks like it has its own means of propulsion, its own means of changing. And also the eyewitnesses' behavior seem very genuine, as in that they're seeing something unusual, they don't know what it is, and they would like to know what it is. But there's also what comes across as a little bit of fear in their voices.
Our verdict? Genuine UFO. This was a tricky one. We like the kite theory. But then why doesn't it seem to drift with the wind? It turns out China is also setting up spy bases in Cuba. So we'll be keeping an eye on the island nation.